Hey everyone, I just wanted to do a quick video that kind of explains some of the stuff that I handed out regarding the zones. Please go see the video I made regarding sort of how you can use your breathing and effort to kind of get an idea of the zones. But real quickly, just the shorthand that you see in the training plans. Again, I wrote some of it out, but just to hear what some of the triathlon speak abbreviations mean when you're trying to read the training plan in the future. So starting with, again, Z1, which represents zone 1, that is your most easiest recovery sort of pace. That's everything from no effort, hardly at all, sort of walking across the room, to a sort of a mild, light jog. Definitely can carry on conversation, brisk walking, that kind of a pace. Zone 2, or Z2, is sort of the first level of effort of some kind. It's still considered relatively easy for serious athletes that have been doing it for a while. Runners who training for and or completed a full marathon, it would be considered what would be a sort of a marathon base pace. Obviously, if you can't or never run even a 5K, I can't say it's your marathon pace. So you have to kind of take some of those kind of statements or descriptions when you see them online about Zone 2 or the other zones with a big grain of salt. Zone 2 is basically your steady state, easy enough. I can do this theoretically for hours. Again, if you've never even run 5K, that kind of means that it's at that pace where you don't feel panting, you don't feel like you're really working hard. You can get tired of doing it. You can get bored at doing it. You're starting to glisten a little bit when it comes to like the sweating level. You can still pretty much carry a conversation. You might have to kind of stop every once in a while, kind of catch your breath or whatever. You don't really have to concentrate too hard to hold that pace. It is considered sort of the endurance pace. So frequently you'll see things that says like warm up zone 1 to 2. It means you kind of start easy and then you kind of build to that pace, but you don't really need to go any higher. You see some workouts that are the recovery pace is at zone 2, meaning you don't want to just completely just noodle along. You may have to initially when you first stop, but then you slowly build back up to a level 2, and that's your recovery pace in that situation. But it's usually considered your endurance pace. Okay, zone 3 or Z3. Zone 3 is for many of you pretty much what's going to be your race pace at the sprint distance. And what it is it's what most people consider working kind of hard. It's kind of not hard and kind of not easy. It's the first kind of real level where you feel like you're kind of working. It is a kind of a what do you call a dead zone. In other words, when I want you to work out hard, you want to work out well above it, and when I want you to be easy, you should be below it. I do use zone 3 later in the training blocks because I want you to be working at a little bit harder pace. So you may see, for example, a workout that says start at zone 2 out and zone 3 back. So say if it's a 20-minute run, that means 10 minutes zone 2, turn around and come back harder. But you're not really working hard yet. You're not really breathing deep and panting. You can still carry mostly a conversation. You may kind of have to break it up a little bit. But again, it's kind of the first kind of working sort of, you'll hear the term moderate intensity. Again, that might be what ends up being your pace if you don't have the volume of training to really sustain a zone 4 or higher pace during the effort. For example, in my case, when I do a sprint race, it's about an hour and 5 minutes. So theoretically, your threshold or zone 4, which we'll talk about in a moment, is your maximum effort for up to an hour, sort of that at an hour pace. So again, if you haven't been able to run even at all for an hour, you can't use those kind of terms to describe it. So you go back to the other descriptions. So the next level is a very important level from a training standpoint. It's called the Zone 4 or Z4, or otherwise known as threshold. This is the really quite difficult pace. It's not a max effort, but it's challenging. You have to focus on it. If you're riding the bike, if you're not paying attention, you'll just slowly start to drift back down to Zone 3, where it's, again, slightly feels like working, but it's not as uncomfortable. Zone 4 kind of hurts. You start breathing deep and rhythmically. You usually can talk in short, little bit of phrases, kind of here, kind of there, don't really want to chat. And so that is a very important intensity level. Again, it's not max effort, but it is pretty tough. That's the place where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck of being able to go harder, longer. So you might be able to work zone 4 for say 3 to 5 minutes, and then that's it. Well, that's not quite your full race distance, but little by little, by stacking efforts of say 3 to 5 minutes, eventually maybe 8 to 10 minutes, and you do 2 or 3 of those, little by little, you start being able to do the same intensity longer, and you stack them together. Next thing you know, you're able to hold that kind of intensity for a longer duration. It's basically improving your body's ability to use lactate, which is associated with the feeling of the burn and so forth. That actually doesn't cause it. It's actually a fuel source, but your body's not used to it, doesn't want to go there, so you have to train it. Zone 5. Zone 5 is hard. It is full out hard effort. Now, it's hard effort for the duration intended. So for example, if I say zone 5 for 1 minute, it means you should be able to go at the same intensity you started at the beginning of the minute to the end of that full minute. A lot of people go out way too hard at the beginning, then they kind of fall off at the end, especially if it's a zone 5 for 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Usually don't see much longer efforts than that in zone 5, at least not at the sprint level, beginner level. But you'll see 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute, those kind of efforts at zone 5. I reserve the next level, which is zone 5 plus, for a near true maximal effort. This is, let's say for it's a minute long, it's going to be about your 95-98% of full out max effort. Okay, so they're very hard. There's no talking. There's the thing is they're so short you frequently don't see a big blood heart rate spike until after the effort's over if you're tracking heart rate. But you'll know it when you feel it by working very hard on these efforts. Again, these are pretty important to get your a tolerance for higher intensities. It also improves efficiency, leg turnover, pedaling efficiency on the bike, a lot of things that improve neuromuscular things that will give you a big benefit come harder effort like a race day. It also can also be that you're doing slower cadence, higher intensity, for example, like hill work. Sprints up a hill. They're not maximal effort, but they're harder because they're going up a hill. So it's not speed based. It's just about like working hard up a short hill, say 30 seconds long, then getting full recovery on the way back down, and then hit it again hard. That'll be again a great benefit to you. Zone 5 plus. What's Zone 5 plus, and what's the difference between Zone 5 plus, which is super threshold or VO2 kind of efforts that you'll also see, and also PI or power interval. And what's the difference between those two? Zone 5 plus basically is as hard as you can for that duration, but we expect it to be as close to just maxing out altogether. And so if it's a Zone 5 plus and it is say a minute long, a lot of people, what will happen is they hit and fade. That's okay with Zone 5 plus, but the goal again is to try to really peak as high as you can. So there's no holding back really on a Zone 5 plus. It's closer to what we call a power interval. Power of interval is Just hit it as hard as you can, and they're usually very, very short. 10 seconds, 30 seconds. They're true max effort. You don't build up to them. You just go full out. So Zone 5 Plus might be a building effort, or it maybe try to sustain that max effort, but a little bit longer. So that's why they're about the same thing. They're frequently used interchangeably between Zone 5 Plus and a power interval. And these are used for running, swimming, and everything as far as those zones. So I want you to kind of put it together. You can see stuff on the interweb. It's about RPE, or your rate of perceived exertion, is a 1 to 10 scale. Most people think of things like that. I like to keep them all about the same. So a 1 to 10 scale means that, and you see the handout, like zone 1 to say 5 is actually zone 1. But then 6, 7, 8 is zone 2, 8, 9, 10. So you see what I'm saying? So it gets kind of condensed near the top, both as the intensity gets higher. So zone 1 kind of covers a lot of different areas. So when I talk about RPE, I use the same as the heart rate zones, as the power zones, as your RPE as well. So if I say zone 1, it should be the same as essentially on a 10 scale, 1 through 5, if that makes any sense. So it's just that easy zone 1 effort, that whole range. Zone 2, same thing, that sort of moderate, easy-ish effort, that whole kind of range. So I use RPE 1 through 5, and of course 5 plus for just like crazy max effort. When I'm talking about RPE, usually it's also Zone 5 Plus is the same thing as, say, lifting something really heavy one time. There's not enough heart rate change or anything like that to affect it, so it's just that level of intensity. If that makes sense to you. Hopefully it does. Other things. So, you gotta see terms. WKO, that means workout. So if I say the workout or WKO is something, then I'll use that term. So we said RPE. The other thing is WU, warm up. So you'll see like WU, colon, and then 10 minutes easy, or something like that. 10 minutes easy. Easy is exchangeable for zone 1, for example. Sometimes they'll say something like CD, which is cool down. Same thing. Cool down, 10 minutes, easy span, something like that. You will see the structure of the workout broken down by the zones, the time, and the repetitions and frequencies. So for example, zone 1, warm up, 10 minutes with spin-ups. What's a spin-up? A spin-up just means you just spin the legs, high intensity, easy gearing, easy go. Or you might say surges. Surges are like the same thing. They're basically like a little mini sprint in the middle of whatever you're doing. Not to max intensity, just for 20, 30 steps, and you build up to it and you just kind of ease back down. And the idea is just to get some leg turnover, not really hard effort. Gets your heart rate up a little bit, it's good, it's part of a warm-up. So you'll see, again, spin-ups and surges, about the same thing. Just spin-ups on the bike, surges on the run, and also in the pool. Sometimes they'll say some surges, do some surges, just to get used to changing your pace. The main body workout is usually the second or so item. Sometimes if I break it up into main 1 or main set, it'll be MS1, MS2. Didn't do that too much, but if I modify your plans, we might do that a little bit. So you'll have the main, let's say the warm-up, then the main, and then the cool down. If there's no mention of warm-up or cool down, then that always means just do 10 minutes or so of easy activity to get warmed up, some easy stretching. So you should always warm up and you should always cool down, even if it's not mentioned in the plan. The other thing is, so the main body workout. So it might, for example, be 20 minutes, and then it'll say 3 times 5 minutes, zone 4, and then in parentheses, or I'm sorry, in parentheses, you will have like 4 minutes. What does that mean? So 3 times you're going to do the zone 4 block with, in the parentheses, you've got the 4 minutes of recovery. If I do not say like zone 2 or something like this, then that means the recovery is as you feel, whatever you need. So 4 minutes, usually that means like the first minute sort of zone 1, the second minute kind of still same zone 1, but now you're going a little bit faster RPM, kind of spin the legs a little bit, and then by the end of your warm up, you're probably back to about a zone 2. Again, it's on you, how you feel, and so forth. Sometimes in those recoveries, they're intentionally higher intensity. So you may be doing what we call over-unders, where you go a little bit above zone 4 and a little bit below zone 4. And that's one of the things I forgot to mention. If I put a plus in it, so zone 3 plus, that means we want you at the real high end of zone 3 and maybe drifting a little into zone 4. But the goal is that that high end of that effort versus the low end. So zone 4 plus means you're just above your comfort zone in zone 4, and such. But most of the time you won't see that too much. Sometimes there are sets within the blocks. So you'll see 2 times, and then I'll use the square box to then say 2 times 8 minutes, zone 4, 2 minutes recovery. And then you'll see another recovery on the outside of that that might be, say, 5 minutes. So between the 2 middle blocks, you'll take an additional block of rest, if that makes any sense. Hopefully it does. If there's any questions regarding these things, please let me know. I don't want to run this video for too long. So those are the main things that you'll see in the training plan as far as those. And of course, S with a circle is swim, B in a circle is bike, R in a circle is run. I do try to indicate some strength and so forth. Sometimes I'll just put STR and then whatever. And we'll actually do some discussion about some appropriate strength training and integrating some of that into the program. So again, good luck with everything. Please let me know if you have any concerns or questions. And also, please, if you see the training plan coming for the next week, you have something that's coming up that's going to change the plan. If you need to move days, if you need to adjust the things, if you feel like the intensity is too high, or if you feel like the durations are not fitting with you, whether, for example, you feel like, hey, I'm already riding a bike for an hour and a half already, all my workouts are less than that for my long ride, shouldn't I be doing 2 hours? If you have questions like that, please let me know. I'm more than happy. The training plan that I'm putting out is just a template. It is my intention to give you the best training plan for you for this event. Okay? So please let me know, and we'll be looking forward to putting out some more videos and some more things to help you have a really good first triathlon.